So most of the task which requires the power of artificial intelligence, uh, so we can out of them, most of them can be solved using regression or classification problems. And we have different kinds of regression techniques like linear regression, polynomial, uh, multivariate, and different kinds of regression, multiple regression. Okay, so regression techniques, as I said, it can be used for prediction tasks. Classification is to categorize data, and we have different techniques here also. So, for example, we have technique called as decision tree. We have technique logistic regression. It names regression, but it can be used for classification task. We have technique called as artificial neural network, ANN, which also forms the basis of deep learning. Okay, so the different new kind of learning which can be used for artificial intelligence, artificial neural network. We have a technique called as support vector machines. So there are different other techniques also, but these are the popular techniques which can be used for classification. We have a naive base also. So these techniques utilize different power of mathematics and statistics for classification tasks. For example, decision tree uses uh, tree structure of computer science for classification. Logistic regression uses that logistic function, the sigmoid logistic function, for classification task. Artificial neural network uses the power of neural networks, what we call as. So we have different neuron based system, and this can be input layer, uh, this can be output layer, and this can be related to some kind of mathematical function which we call as activation function, related to this which establishes relation between inputs and outputs layers. So ANN is based on this neural networks. Support vector machines is based on hyperplanes, what we call as hyperplanes. We have support vectors, and we use this hyperplane to classify the data set into two categories based on this hyperplane. A hyperplane can be a line, it can be a plane, or it can be more dimensional thing. Naive uses Bayes theorem to classify the data, which is based on prior probabilities and posterior probabilities, and finding the pattern. So these are the different techniques. So based on the data set, based on the problem, we can use any one of them technique to classify. And the classifier which produces more accuracy, we uses that technique for our classification task. So these are techniques. Anyone can go for any technique. These are the advanced ones. So ANN, support vector machines, these are the popular techniques which produces more accurate results. So you can learn these techniques to use classification uh, tasks.